Hey guys, welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid. You know, Mark Twain once said that writing fiction is harder than writing nonfiction because fiction has to at least make sense. Get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and you're going to have to take notes on this because Mark Twain would not be able to wrap his mind around this story. So, about a week or so ago, my son, Daniel, who, by the way, just a couple of days ago turned 8, so he's now my 8-year-old little boy, not my 7-year-old little boy anymore. He says, "Dad, what are fingernails made of?" We're in the car, we're going somewhere. I said, "I don't know, I think calcium." And he says, "No, it's not calcium." I said, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "Well, I can't remember." He says, "It kind of starts like calcium, but it's not calcium. It's the same thing rhinoceros horns are made out of." I'm like, "Are you sure? I thought it was calcium." And he goes, "No." I said, "Well, we'll Google it when we get home and we'll see." So we got home that evening and he told me to Google it. And I told him, "Well, I just don't have time now. We'll get to it later. Before we go to bed, we'll Google it." Well, long story short, which I'm not very good at, we never got around to Googling to find out what it was about. I'd forgotten about it. A couple days later, my son asked me again, "Daddy, what are fingernails made out of?" And I'm like, "I don't know, we'll Google it." He says, "Well, Google it. I want to know what it is. I saw it on Wildcrats, and I want to prove that you're wrong. It's not calcium. I just can't remember the word, but it's the stuff horns are made out of." Well, we never got around to Googling it. So a couple days ago, it's a snow day. He's home from school, and he wants to hang out with me. And I'm like, "Okay, sure." He was reading a book. I said, "Bring your book upstairs." Since we were snowed in, my beautiful bride dearly was cleaning our master bedroom downstairs. I was upstairs. I figured, well, I'll use this time to clean my office. It's a spare bedroom upstairs. I had a bunch of stuff that needed to be put in the attic. There was just stuff everywhere. I needed to organize it. I said, "Daniel, bring the book you're reading upstairs. Hang out with me in the bedroom and read the book." So he brings his book up. He props himself up on the headboard of the bed and he's reading his book and he says, "Daddy, why don't you Google to find out what fingernails are made out of?" I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll get to it." You know, he's like totally obsessed with this. So I'm cleaning. And you know what it's like when you're cleaning any room. It's like we're all teenagers again. You go in to clean your room and you find something you forgot you had. And so you get consumed with an interest in it and then you forget that you're cleaning. Well, this happened. Okay, here's what I found. This past summer, I happened to be in town in Charlottesville, and you've probably seen it. You've been in town, and somebody's got some clutter, some junk piled up on the sidewalk, and a big sign that says "free." That always gets my attention. I look over, and it's usually just that junk, and so I just keep going. But one day this past summer, I saw the sign. It said "free." I looked down, and it was a box of books, and here's just a few, okay? I stop for books. If I see a used bookstore, I stop. I mean, books. So you put free and books together, boom, I'm there. Okay? So I stop. I started, and guys, this box included an entire encyclopedia set from 1933, as well as about a dozen other old books. Just to give you an example of what they are. The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. This edition is from 1905. Now, the monetary value of these would be zero to anything because they're not in very good condition. But look, there's proof. 1905. You see that? I just brought a few examples out to show you. Here's, what is this? Ivanhoe from 1900. Copyright 1900, Ivanhoe. And this was the oldest book in the box. It's missing its front cover, so it would be worth absolutely zero, I think. It's called Great Events in Modern History from 1851. This book was printed in 1851, more than 10 years before the American Civil War. You see that? So my kid's sitting in the bed that's in the room I use as my office. He's reading his book, and I'm going through these books. And then I knew how old those books were because I checked them out this summer, but I never looked in any of these encyclopedias. So I opened one up at random and I found something. Now guys, I want you to get a pen or a pencil. I want you to take notes. I'm going to ask you to write a couple things down here. The first thing I found were these in these old encyclopedias, okay? If you know what these are, I want you to write down the letter T. Just write down the letter T. Okay, here's the back. It's blank. If you don't know what these are, write down the letter L, okay? There were 2 of them. I'm going to tell you exactly what they are. Those of you who wrote down the letter T, who knows what they are, you know these are antique postcards, French in origin. They're Le Mode Illustré. This one is number 54. This one is number 52. Now, why did I ask you to write down those letters when I was going to give you the answer? You'll find out. And again, you can't make any of this up. You can't make up this story, which is true, about how this all worked out, and you're not going to be able to figure out these letters. I mean, when you see what they mean. Trust me, you don't want to spend any amount of time in my mind to see how these things work. But they'll do. You'll be like, what? Okay, so anyway, I Googled these. I'm on the laptop. I'm Googling these. These are worth between $35 and $65 each. And these are in near mint condition. The corners aren't bent and all this. So my son saw me on the laptop. He says, Daddy, Google what fingernails are made out of. I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. Keep reading your book. You know, just because you missed school today because of snow doesn't mean you can miss out on your reading. Keep reading. He's like, okay, so I keep reading. So I open up another one of these encyclopedias. Let me put this back here. I got to make sure to take care of these. I don't want to drop them in the snow. So I start finding all these little things, okay? Now, get your pen, get your pencil, get your piece of paper. If you've ever seen one of these before, if you remember these, I want you to write down the letter I, okay? Write down the letter I. If you have no clue what this is or where it came from, or you don't remember these from your childhood, write down the letter O, okay? Now here I go again, spoiling it for you. I'm going to tell you what this is. This was a little mailer pamphlet type thing that used to be sent out by telephone companies. In this case, this was published by the Chesapeake and Potomac Telephone Company of Virginia. And they would give you little tidbits. For instance, I'm going to read a little tidbit from you in this little mailer here. It says, household hints. To get fish, cabbage, or other food odors out of the home, put a small amount of vinegar in cold water and bring it to a boil. Let boil a few minutes and the odor will disappear completely. And who says clickbait is crazy news stories is something of the modern age? Looks like the telephone companies were doing it 60 years ago. And there were several of these in here. This was just one. So then, guys, this is going to blow your mind. I keep going. I get out. I went through every single book in this set of encyclopedia, which, by the way, is from 1933. It's the Comptons Encyclopedia complete set from 1933. So, of course, I want to know, what's this worth? So I Google it. I'm going to eBay. It's worth about maybe $60 at most, and it's not in very good condition. It's been sitting under this bed in our spare room. It's got mold on it. It's probably not even worth that. So my son sees me back at the computer. He says, Daddy, you're at the computer. Just Google to see what fingernails are made of. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Daniel, I'll get to it. Just keep reading, okay? So I get out another encyclopedia. I'm just so into this. And I'm pulling out all these little stories. Okay, look at this. Check this out. This is from the Richmond News Leader, which is an old newspaper out of Richmond, Virginia, the capital of Richmond, Monday, September 28, 1959. And I'm finding these in all the books, and these little quizzes like this one. When did the first horse reach America? And there was one about where do canaries come from, and I'm engrossed with it. But what engrossed me even more is when I turned on the back, I'm finding obituaries, and I'm finding one ads, advertisements. Guys, I was finding obituaries from 1959 of people who were in their 80s when they died, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these people were born in the 1860s, 1870s. And then they died like 60 years ago, and here I am in 2019 reading about it. That kind of stuff blew my mind. So I looked at the back of this one. I highlighted it in pink. Listen to this. Guys, tell me who wouldn't jump at this today. Here's some land for sale, 580 acres, okay? In Powhatan County, between Route 60 and the James River. Wooded lots with streams. Guys, my family goes catfishing there. It's right off of Interstate 64 between Charlottesville and Richmond, Virginia. 580 acres. You know how much it cost? $45 an acre. $45 an acre. My gosh. It's probably $20,000 or $30,000 an acre now. I mean, I know that's what land goes for around here. Maybe it's probably $20,000 an acre. So I find this, and out of curiosity, I'm like, I wonder what land, I'm going to Google it to see what land costs there. So I jump on the computer, and my son's like, Daddy, what are fingernails made of? And I'm like, okay, let me hurry up and get through this. So I say, the heck with finding real estate prices in Powhatan County. I go back into the encyclopedias. I get to the very last one. And guys, this is where it gets creepy. Okay, now, I got ahead of myself a bit. If you can remember when you could get land like this for $45 an acre, I want you to write the letter M. If you've never been able to get land for $45 an acre in your lifetime, I want you to write the word V, okay? If you could have bought land, let's say in your adult life, in a place right outside of a metropolis area like Richmond, write the letter M. If you've never seen land for $45 an acre in your adult life, close to a metropolis area, write the letter V, okay? So, I dive back into the encyclopedias. I go to the last one. I'm not making this up, and if Mr. Twain's up there riding around on Halley's Comet, he's laughing right now because this is exactly what he talked about. This is nonfiction, and it makes no sense. And wouldn't you know it, every time I'm just rocking and rolling with one of my stories, I lose what I'm looking for. So here it is. I get to the last newspaper clipping, and guys, this is a true story. I got chills when I pulled this out, okay? This is from the Richmond News Leader, again, Tuesday, May 16th, 1961. It's one of those little quiz things. Read that. What are fingernails made of? I looked at my son on the bed. At first I got chills, but then I understood this was a message. And I don't know how the universe does these things, but this stopped me in my track. I stopped worrying about what else might I have missed in one of these books. I stopped worrying about jumping online to see what some antique postcard I found in an old encyclopedia set was worth, because I realized these old newspaper clippings, these old antique postcards, all this stuff led me to the truest, most precious treasure I have in my life that cannot be replaced with anything of material value. And it was sitting right there on the bed, feet away from me, and I was completely ignoring it. I was putting it off for something else. If you've done this before, I want you to write down the letter E. Everybody out there just wrote down the letter E, didn't you? So I moved over to the bed. I said, Daniel, do you want to know what fingernails are made out of? He said, yeah, I've wanted to know for a week. I said, well, I guess I've wanted you to work on your reading. I said, here, buddy, why don't you read this? And I gave this to him to read. And he just took it up. And with the innocence of a child, he didn't ask me what this was, where it came from, how I got this. He just read it. And we found out that, and this was a little girl wrote this. She was 13. This was a contest. Win the Britannica Junior 15-volume encyclopedia for school and home. Send your questions, name, and age addressed to Tell Me Why, care of this paper, the Richmond News Leader. Today's winner is Jeannie Wright, age 13, from Kaysville, Utah. And ma'am, if you're out there and you happen to see this, you contact me. I'll send you this, okay? But she wrote this short story about what fingernails are made out of. And it's called keratin. And my son was right. This is a tough, dead form of protein. It is a horn-like material. It's called keratin. So guys, you're looking at your piece of paper right now where I told you to write all these letters. There's two different words you may have gotten. If you're younger, you got one word. If you're older, you got another. Don't worry, you're not old. You've just lived longer than most people. If you want to know what both words are, if you're younger, get someone older in your life and ask them what their word was. And if you're older, of course, find someone younger and ask them what theirs was. Spend some time together and talk about those words. But make sure you don't blink, because before you do, the first one's gone. The second one, thank God, stays forever. But we need to appreciate it and cherish it for the precious treasure that it truly is while we have it with us. I'm going to give you a beautiful parting shot of the homestead here this morning. See you for more next time.